You're watching the Comms Syndicate live stream.
It's 11:59 on Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the train is still gone. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall.
We'll do it live. We'll do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
Oh, hello, everybody.
An incredibly professional operation we're going to have here tonight.
Excuse me.
None of you are drinking, so that's good. I was being facetious.
Oh.
And I know you're all just booze hounds. So, well, welcome to the live stream. We've got Jared from 2 Alpha Solutions and Drew from the Terminal Element, and also Phil from the Matter of Facts podcast. And I guess so for those who are active on amateur radio, you can send us comments or questions via JSA call. I guess we're doing that tonight, right, Drew?
Yeah. I'm up on 40 meters, 7078. I'm getting lots of traffic. Man, they're blowing up the phones already. We haven't even gotten started. Tons of comments.
40 meters, right?
40 meter, 7.078.
Well,
Do not type 7078. You will blow out the finals in your True SDX. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
I read about it in Vogue. Teen Vogue.
Well, you can send those comments or questions to callsigngroup@TCS. So we got quite a bit to cover. So on this episode, we're going to discuss a request from the ARRL for every ham in the U.S. to lobby for the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act, because, well, we have to tie in at least one comms subject. A China-linked plot to cripple telecommunications in New York, ICE agents who were ambushed in Chicago, the Latin Kings gang leader who was arrested for putting a bounty on an ICE agent, and allegations by the mayor of Chicago accusing the right of wanting a Civil War rematch. But before we jump into that, we do want to give a shout out. Give me 1 second to pull this up. So we wanted to draw your attention to a YouTube channel called Ham Radio Made Simple. And a couple of days ago, MJ, who runs the channel, announced that due to health reasons, he won't be doing any more videos. And, you know, we just wanted to honor him. And, you know, this is definitely a loss for the radio community because he approached radio content with thoughtfulness, detail, and he took great care in trying to ensure the subject matter was easy to understand. And MJ also tackled a lot of difficult ham radio topics with passion and class, and he's definitely going to be sorely missed. Very nice guy. I had the pleasure of meeting him one time. We chatted over the phone for about an hour, and you know, I wish him the best, and you know, I hope that hope you take care of yourself, sir. God bless you. Drew, do you have anything? I know you've talked to him over the years. You know him much better than I do. Is there anything you wanted to throw out there?
I don't think I would be betraying any confidence in saying that MJ loves Christ with all his heart, and he says he's not afraid to die because he knows he's going home. So I'm not going to pretend that a guy with 5-figure subscribership is watching our little channel right now. But MJ, if you are watching, I wish you the happiest quality of life, best quality of life in your remaining years here. And I'm very sad to see that you had to hang it up because of health reasons. But you know what? We're going to be all there. And hopefully we all end up in the same place someday. We can all play with radios in heaven. Because otherwise, I really can't figure out a reason to go to heaven, honestly.
Unless there's radios.
Unless we got some walkies, some sick Cobras.
Probably got something better than that, hopefully.
Brandmeister DMR, Drew.
You're thinking of the wrong opposite place.
I think that's the direction down. So
I did pick something up here. You can. Do you recognize that noise? If that even came through the microphone.
I heard it.
I think I heard it. Yeah.
Sounds like a TYT MD390 plus.
You knew it! Wow! Yeah,
That's what it sounded like. Yeah. Well, so you actually broke down and got one, huh?
I picked it up used from local ham here, K7LNA. His name's Ray. He's just the smartest guy I've ever met in terms of ham radio, and so he had a used one that he was getting rid of at a little bit of a discount. So
cool.
Picked it up.
Well, welcome to the dark side.
Now we can talk on the internet.
We absolutely can, because I've got mine here, and and Jared's super excited. And then
what I'm saying is now someday we will be able to all, like 4 of us, communicate somehow over the internet.
Like we are right now.
God
Wait, what?
willing.
No, this doesn't
What?
count.
This does not count.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take away from MJ.
He would have enjoyed this conversation, I think.
Maybe. We'll see.
Was he into DMR?
I don't believe so.
He was an HF.
I think he was just super interested in HF, and he wanted to bring people together, and he still does. I'm not going to speak about him. Shouldn't speak about him in the past tense. It's terrible. No, he wants to bring people together and encourage resiliency in communications, especially long range communications. So, I don't know if the DMR quite fits into that, but
have him as a guest. I know we had talked about it, and but anyway, if MJ, if you happen to be watching, we're thinking of you. But anyway, let's move on to our first topic, which is the Amateur Radio Emergency Preparedness Act. And so basically, I'll set this up and then we can discuss this. But basically, it's a proposed federal legislation, I can't talk tonight, to protect the right of amateur radio operators to install antennas, even in communities with HOA restrictions. And I'll show you what that looks like. If I can add it to the stage. So basically, it aims to prohibit HOAs from banning or severely limiting amateur radio antennas, similar to rights for TV antenna users. And one of the other goals is to establish a clearer approval process for antenna installations and grant amateur radio operators a private right of action to enforce these rights. And so the ARRL is taking it upon themselves to lead a grassroots campaign to pass this, they're calling it a bipartisan bill. And if signed into law, would prevent private land use restrictions from prohibiting or excessively restricting the installation, maintenance, or operation of amateur station antennas, but also allows for restrictions that would require antennas to be structurally safe and compliant with manufacturer specifications, zoning ordinances, and building codes. So overall, the intent is to set limits on HOA approval processes for antennas and exempting certain categories of antennas from prior approval requirements altogether, and give amateur radio operators the ability to sue in court to resolve disputes and enforce their antenna rights. I could be mistaken, but I thought there was a similar bill a few years ago that was introduced into legislation, and maybe there were some other iterations of it that were similar before that, but I don't think it got very far, so that's why they're introducing this one. I don't know. What do you think the chances are this bill will be signed into law once Congress decides to reconvene?
What would be the quid pro quo on that? What would the opposition to that get out of it?
The sombrero memes will stop if they reconvene and approve this. So,
do we have to trade healthcare for illegal aliens for have some sweet antennas out in the yard?
You might have to. But I mean, I'm pretty sure that there was something similar to this. Like I said, I don't think it got very far, but I don't know what, even if Congress was in session right now, I really don't know if this would even get signed, because it would be a leg up, certainly, for amateur radio operators, but who have an HOA.
I don't see why it wouldn't get signed, but I don't see why it would either. I mean, I don't think they really give two shits one way or the other.
I mean, I don't think your average congressman cares. And this is, if you think about the fact that if you think about all of the active amateur radio operators that are in the U.S., and then you think about the percentage of those that are actually like politically active and willing to get out of their ham shack long enough to write a letter or call their congressperson.
It's like 50 people.
Yeah.
There's less than 1 million hams in the United States, allegedly.
And
like,
yeah, and well, I mean, look at it like this, to make a comparison like the Second Amendment community. There's ostensibly like 100 to 140 million firearm owners in this country, but how much firepower can we bring to bear on anything approaching a Second Amendment lawsuit? It's like the proportion that is politically active is always going to lag behind the total population. And at the end of the day, Congress works off the squeaky wheel premise. The squeakiest wheel gets the grease. So
why do you think that is with the internet? The NRA has like millions of members, and yet
or the moneyest wheel gets the grease.
Maybe
that money and squeak amounts to about the same thing.
Amateur anything doesn't really sound like money.
Well, the problem is that you consider the fact that like the majority of your ham operators are probably not in this proportion where like them putting up an antenna in a tower in their backyard is an issue with an HOA. So they're not gonna get off their butts and actually do anything about it.
Unless the law prohibits the HOAs from allowing me to put a tower up like I have now. I think it's a feel good, warm and fuzzy bill that doesn't really matter, and they don't care about it.
Well, and I agree with where you're going with that. Like the idea that it allows you to redress it in court is a little bit backwards to me, because to me, what we probably need to do is install some guardrails to prevent preemptive policing where an HOA does not have the ability to sue you over XYZ and ABC. You know what I'm saying? Like the idea that, okay, the HOA can drag your butt into court. You have to go get a lawyer. You have to take time off of work. And then you might be able to convince the judge you're on the right side of right. That's one thing. But to install guardrails, say the HOA has no legal standing, period, in discussion, where you can literally send them a letter and tell them to jump off a cliff, that's probably where we need to wind up. Although I feel that way about most things.
Pam Bondi would say that's hate speech.
Pam Bondi is a retard. And I don't mean like developmentally challenged. I mean, she's freaking retarded.
Sustained.
So not a fan is what you're saying, Phil.
Listen, I am not a fan of any. Now,
sorry for derailing you there.
No, you just saw the campfire right there, and you had the handful of gasoline in your hand. You just couldn't help yourself. But there it goes.
Whoops.
I don't know. I don't like preemptive policing. I don't like the idea that an HOA can tell a person what they can or cannot do on their own private property. I don't like the idea that they get to drag somebody into court over stupid stuff when it's like if you don't pay the mortgage or the property taxes, then what goes on in these four corners is none of your damn business. Have a good day.
Who owns the property?
If I paint my front door the wrong color green, you're gonna freaking take my house away from me.
Okay, but who owns the property in an HOA? Terrence, you have some insight into this. How does that legally structured? How is it legally structured? Sorry.
Well, we own the property, at least for our HOA. I had one. Not all HOAs are bad. The house that I lived in before my current one, we had an HOA and it was like $7 a month, and their only function was to maintain the tributaries around the property. So basically, it was flood control, and they used that money to maintain those little, like I said, those little waterways. And so, other than that, they didn't really interfere, and I was able to put up, my amateur radio antennas and all that stuff. Now this HOA, basically, they are a little more restrictive. If you do paint your door a different color and don't get it approved through the architectural review board or whatever, they'll fine you until you change it back. But as far as who owns the land, as far as I know, we own it. But there's certain restrictions that govern the use of, what we do with it. For instance, I have a couple of repeaters in my garage. I have a GMRS and 2-meter repeater, but I can't put my antennas any higher than the ridge line of the roof. I think under, if this were passed, I would be able to probably get away with putting those a little bit higher and, helping out my coverage area a little bit better, maybe slightly. But
how are you bound to those rules then? Is it some sort of durable line in your deed?
He pays $7 a month and signs his rights away.
Well, that was the old HOA. This HOA is actually not too bad. It's like $30, but there are some HOAs that are like 800.
Well, I'm just trying to understand how are you legally bound to abide by those rules?
So I can't speak for Terrence's situation
through
but
the
my
CCNRs.
Yeah, I was about to say my dad I believe still is involved in his HOA. And from what I understand, basically when you purchase a property within that HOA, one of the documents you sign that you never pay attention to is basically, I agree to abide by the restricted covenants, X, Y, Z, ABC, yada, yada, yada. Basically, you're granting them the authority to put you in a legal bind if you piss them off.
Now, I think, I've had people say, well, why not, run for like HOA president and get your friends on the board and then just agree to dissolve the HOA. And it's not really that simple because I believe when they, like in this instance, when they created this housing community, they did all of the deeds based on, having an HOA. So if you dissolved it, I think you would have to redo everyone's deeds and probably, go through the mortgage process. I think I tried to look it up one time. I'm not entirely clear how that works, but I think that's, somewhat true. But like I said, maybe if something like this does pass and I've got a little bit of legal standing to be like, okay, well, this clearly supersedes HOA rules. It's a federal law, so there's really not much you can do to me. But if it was signed into law, do you think those that were previously prevented from putting up antennas under any kind of HOA restriction would actually set up stations for backup or emergency communications for their communities? Or do you, like you were saying, do you think it's just a feel-good thing to have?
I think it's a feel-good thing to have because I think what will happen is now the HOAs will require under state law or local law that any kind of structure that you put up antenna-wise, even if it's just a simple mast on your house with an antenna on it, that you're going to need some kind of an engineering stamp and an electrical stamp for proper grounding and bonding.
Which you probably should anyway. I mean, if you put a fence up that's 7 feet tall, you have to have that engineered, in some places. So, I mean, I don't disagree with, maybe having someone make sure that, if you put up a tower, the foundation or the footing for that is reviewed by an engineer. I don't have an issue with that, but
I do, though.
It's not the issue of them having them review it. It's the fees that would be associated with it. It's just, I think, to me, it's more of a money-making thing.
Yeah, I mean, if the engineering fee is like $5,000, yeah, that's a little ridiculous. But
well, it's not just the fees involved; it's the fact that, like, the minute now, I'm going to use slippery slope fallacy, so y'all forgive me, but like the minute you go down this road of, well, we should only allow what restrictions are reasonable, then I have to ask the question, who gets to decide what's reasonable? Because the angry Karen or the fuddy old man down the street that doesn't like ham radio towers is going to raise the bar as high as humanly possible to make sure you cannot put up a tower because he doesn't like them. It's the same argument about concealed carry permits. The minute you say, well, it's reasonable,
antenna regulation, Phil.
Yeah, well, but here's my issue. My premise has been proven true by history. In those localities that do not like people carrying guns, they just make the requirements so onerous that most people will not, and it cools people exercising their rights. So, like,
well, you make a good point because it's like you hear the same arguments about firearms legislation. It's like, well,
about everything.
We need common sense gun legislation. And it's like, well, whose common sense are we using? Because if we're using the common sense from some of the people we see in the media and running around protesting, I don't want to use their common sense.
Yeah. Now, I mean, me personally, I'm a small L libertarian. I tend to operate off of big boy rules. If you do dumb stuff, you're legally liable for it. You get to redress it in court. But if you want to have a discussion about, like, can you put up a tower under X amount of height without any of that nonsense? I think there's a realistic limit where you say if you want to put up a 200-foot tower in your backyard and it could strike your neighbor's house, we probably need a little bit of guardrail in place.
I believe there is something like that already for amateur radio antennas. It's like,
which means there probably doesn't need to be any additional legalese around it. If you want to put up a 20-foot tower in your backyard, just go do it and tell the HOA.
I remember that being part of I think it's like in the tech exam or something, but yeah.
I want to answer your question, Terrence. I think this is a popular enough topic. It comes up enough that I think there will be a substantial number of people who would take advantage of that. And of course, there'd be some people who are too lazy. But I think it's a I mean, it's a hot button issue on all sorts of web forums and YouTube channels. We just had the HOA radio guy on the TCS, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
I think there would be people who take advantage of it, but I believe this is being billed as some sort of emergency preparedness act.
It is, and like
it would
all
be
the other-
nice to it would be nice to see some case study of some sort of emergency that a community wasn't prepared for because somebody in an HOA was prevented from having this. I just, if that doesn't seem like the most honest argument to me, as maybe like just property rights. So if somebody's gonna make this argument, I would just like to see the argument remain on the side of honesty, intellectual honesty.
I don't think you have to go that.
We'll definitely segue into one of the topics that we're going to get into, which is that sim farm that was created in New York City that was discovered, but which had the potential of knocking out the cell network. I mean, I know a lot of people probably laugh at the whole emergency communications thing, but that's a use case for it. It really is. And I agree with you. I think if we're going to have these kind of discussions, it needs to be intellectually honest.
But are there emergencies that have taken place that the antenna below the roof line or the hidden Slim Jim or little black wire up in the tree in the backyard that's HOA compliant, that wasn't adequate? It would just be nice to see some case study like that.
Oh, yeah. I hear what you're saying. I mean, right now, my repeaters pretty much do what I intended. They cover my neighborhood. I'm not trying to reach the whole valley or anything. They do get out pretty far in certain directions, but I'm limited by terrain as well. I've got there's some features geographically that prevent the signal from getting out to certain directions. So, that's not the HOA's
fault. This is VHF, UHF.
Mm-hmm. But that's not the HOA's fault. And even if I was able to put my antenna a little bit higher, I mean,
you should have the HOA take those terrain features away.
Right.
So I'll give an example of HF communications from an HOA. I believe our friend Random Wire lives in one. He has a very nice house, and he hooked a 1 to 9 unun up to his rain gutter downspout and created a random wire antenna from his rain gutter. So, and he was reaching me out here in Idaho. And that's crazy. I'm not going to give away where he lives, but he lives quite a distance away across the country. So, that's an HOA compliant antenna that he could conceivably reach the entire continent with. And, so if there was some sort of HF, some sort of emergency requiring HF, he's still pretty good. So I'm just curious who this is prevented from responding to an emergency.
Probably under some of the most restrictive HOAs that you can probably find is my guess. It sounds like probably enough people have complained about this that are in that circumstance. I've never been in it, so I can't speak firsthand about it. My HOAs have not been that bad. But maybe there are some people out there who are like, yeah, it's terrible.
I mean, the problem is that everybody has that one HOA from hell story.
Yeah.
To prove that there probably is an HOA out there that would pitch fit over a 10-foot antenna mast in your backyard.
Sure. And there's probably some that would throw a fit if they knew. Like, I think in some cases it's probably more about the Karen snitching on you. That's like, oh, he's using a rain gutter as an antenna, and he can't do that because that's against our CC&R. It's like, that there's got to be something like that where it probably boils down to snitching and not necessarily that the HOA saw your antenna in the backyard or something is my guess. But I'm just speculating. But really, they're supposed to. But briefly, so for those of you who are watching who are hams, just a little bit more about this. We'll jump into our next topic. So this bill, I guess, was introduced in February 2025. And again, if you want to submit a letter, you can go over to the ARRL. You can find this article pretty easily, and basically they're just requesting that hams go to the arrl.org/HOA. You enter your call sign, press the red Send My Letters button, which will basically send your correspondence to your elected officials, encouraging them basically to support the bill. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So, but with that, I personally would like to see it signed into the law, and maybe it will help more people get interested in having a radio as a backup communications option. And so that will kind of segue into our next topic, which is that plot to cripple the telecommunications network in New York. And so let me just jump over to our next little thing here.
And just to correct what you just said, given the number of people that only use cell phones and don't have landlines at home, crippling the cellular communications network is basically crippling all comms for a substantial portion of people.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Whose fault is that?
I didn't say it was right. I'm just telling you the way the statistics break out, brother.
Well, you should probably have a landline in addition to your cell phone. But
You should probably have a radio, but neither here nor there.
Right.
It's good to have layers of comms, I think. But
yes.
But on September 23rd, ABC News had reported, and this was the first news story that broke, a plot uncovered by Secret Service, basically, as I said, which would have crippled New York's telecommunications network. Then on September 29th, they followed up on that story, stating that the plot to cripple the telecommunication system was bigger than they initially realized. And basically, what they had discovered were additional locations and more equipment. And they're still kind of working to figure out what the ultimate goal of what the Secret Service claims was a China-linked plot that essentially would have crippled every cell tower in New York. It would have jammed 911 calls and really just would have caused chaos on the cell phone infrastructure. So what they discovered were about 200,000 SIM cards at a location in New Jersey. And that's in addition to when they initially reported this story, they found 100,000. So about 300,000 SIM cards in total, along with hundreds of servers that were recently seized at 5 other vacant offices and apartments. And basically it's in and around New York City. Basically, the equipment that they seized was capable of sending about 30 million anonymous text messages every minute. And so they're saying that that would have overloaded communications and crippled the cellular service. According to Blaze News, who cited sources within the Department of Homeland Security and the U.S. intelligence community, they basically said that these SIM farms had been operational for more than a year, and they were operated by China's Ministry of State Security. And the Chinese Ministry of State Security is an espionage agency that's grown in prominence and global activity in recent years. And this is according to the journal China Leadership Monitor. The ministry employs approximately 800,000 people, which is almost double what the Soviet KGB had at its peak. And allegedly it operates worldwide at a scale and tempo not seen in decades, according to the China Leadership Monitor. That's something I guess that they wrote recently in a newsletter. So far, authorities have not made any arrests. And I guess one of my questions to you guys is, what do you think would have happened if these SIM cards, basically if they pulled the trigger and crippled the cell network in New York City? I believe there was a blackout in the 70s in New York, and it was just chaos for a couple of nights. And then we had a blackout in 2003 on the East Coast, and that was a little bit unnerving because that was right after 9/11. How do you think people would have reacted?
Pure pandemonium.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to log into their Grindr accounts there in New York City. So how?
Goodness, coming out swinging tonight, Drew.
Well, but Drew, you're being facetious. But I mean, think about think about 5 just perfectly average neighbors that you know that live close to you. How often do they touch a cell phone? How many things do they do on a daily basis using their cell phone? And do they have any ability to do those things without their cell phone? Shutting down a cellular network.
Gone down drastically.
What was that, Jared?
The dopamine level across New York City would have drastically reduced.
Yeah, well, not just the dopamine level. I mean, if you shut down tech circuits, you also shut down data. You're talking about shutting down commerce. You're talking about shutting down people being able to pay bills, pay mortgages, pay rent, because everything gets done electronically these days. You're talking about the first layer of communication, at least around here. Most law enforcement officers use their cell phone as a primary, radios only as a backup. You're talking about
a lot of public safety places are using cellular tied radios, two-way radios that are not using simplex or repeaters aside from the cellular network. So
yep,
people could die.
I'll give you a perfect one use scenario. My daughter's school, if something happens and like my daughter's school needs to inform me and my wife that like there's been an emergency, there's been an accident, we need to come pick up our child, or if they need to notify all the parents, hey, there's something happened at school, you need to come get your kids. That all gets done by phone. So shutting down the cell network in an area as population dense as New York, I mean, there are people that are going to lose their lives that day that otherwise wouldn't. There's going to be immediate pandemonium and probably panic.
Well, that's what I was saying.
How could a public safety entity, how could a police department or fire department, ambulance service call in extra staff?
Considering they all probably only have a cell phone.
Everyone's eggs are in one basket with this stuff.
I think it would have had worldwide effects because it would have shut down the stock market.
Yep.
Absolutely.
See, now we're thinking here, right? It's not just I mean, I understand Drew's being funny, but like, it's not just the Grindr accounts and the Tinder profiles that go dormant. It's shutting down the cell network in that area. It's going to grind commerce to a halt that is going to touch other countries because of where it is.
Let me get to a couple of comments. So DJ, the Metalhead Mercenary, says Chinese getting squirrely with that stuff. Also, that case in Chicago with the guy using a jammer on the metro train was both humorous and wild. That happened a little while back. I don't recall that story. Do you guys remember that?
Don't remember.
I remember hearing something, but I don't know any details. Or
DJ, send us more details.
Yeah.
If my co-host Nick were not in the woods camping with his wife and were present, he'd probably know the details.
Shame on him. He probably has cell service out there.
I mean, I'm not going to give him too much crap about spending time with his spouse.
Whatever. Let's see. Does landline still have the same meaning anymore? Mine is through my ASP. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think they're all digital.
Whose landline are, it's through the internet.
Is there is there such thing as an analog phone line anymore?
No, not analog. It all went digital when I was a kid.
Yeah.
When Phil and I were knee high to a grasshopper.
I mean, I have a landline, but I don't think it's analog.
I turned 43 in a couple of days. So, I mean, I remember analog phones. I can't remember the last time I actually saw one that was in use.
Well, but analog, you're talking about like the rotary phones where they, when that went
Not
digital.
necessarily that, but anything that went through the phone line copper-wise, instead of voice over IP.
But I think most landlines are actually VoIP now.
I think that's accurate.
But I don't know to what extent that
radio is the shit.
Oh,
I know that he's being funny.
He is being funny, right? Like, I don't have to have a mini stroke, do I?
I think I'm having a stroke right now.
I mean, I drank.
Look what you did.
I brought coffee to this podcast, expected this to be like, not off the rails. But if I need to go get whiskey, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Gonna need a little adjunct for that coffee.
So, Jared, Sweet. It looks like you have some links regarding the cell jamming incident. So
you got some homework.
Yeah, you got to check that out.
Expect a report. ASAP.
So while you're looking that up, if these have been operating for over a year, how did they go unnoticed for so long? And I don't know, what do you think that says about surveillance blind spots? I mean, because, we've passed things like the Patriot Act, so that way the government can be in your ass about everything. And yet something like this is going on under our noses.
I can tell you that no matter how much power we give the government, they will always be happy to point at something like this and say, but if we'd only had a little bit more, we could have prevented this.
Mm-hmm.
Find anything, Jordan?
What's that, Drew?
Oh, I thought you had looked up the link.
It didn't come through yet. It hasn't come through yet.
No, I agree with you, Phil. That Hegelian dialectic, it's a never-ending cycle.
Well, I mean,
power.
Well, and nothing is as permanent as temporarily granting the government any sort of power. Like, let's be honest.
Yeah. California's about to figure that one out.
California, they're going to be, well, I was going to say California. I was looking at the United Kingdom the other day. They're apparently putting people in prison over memes now.
Yeah, you get a visit from the regime if you make jokes on the interwebs. Or so I've heard. There's people that'll swear up and down that that's not happening, but
okay,
it is. Well, I guess this is more of a question for the audience, but what would you folks do if your phone suddenly stopped working and you were unable to reach 911? How prepared are you for a communications blackout? And while you guys are mulling that over, our next topic takes us to Chicago, where on October 4th, ICE agents were rammed and boxed in by 10 cars in Broadview, Illinois, according to the Department of Homeland Security. ICE officers were forced to deploy their weapons and fire defensive shots at an armed U.S. citizen. One of the armed attackers, a female, allegedly doxed agents and posted online, "Hey to all my gang, let's fuck those motherfuckers up. Don't let them take anyone." No agents were injured in the incident, and the woman involved actually drove herself to the hospital to get care for her wounds. I don't know how severe they were. But prior to the incident, in response to plans by President Trump to federalize 300 members of the Illinois National Guard, Governor J.B. Pritzker posted several statements on X accusing the Trump administration and federal law enforcement of unprecedented escalations of aggression against Illinois citizens and residents. How much influence do you think Governor Pritzker's public criticism of federal action and the federalization of the National Guard will impact the environment that produced this confrontation? Phil, you probably know a little bit about that.
So me and Nick were actually talking about this just the other day on our podcast, and I'm gonna do this begrudgingly, but I kind of think this administration is going to have an uphill fight employing Title 10 to do what they want to do with it, because traditionally speaking, every time a National Guard unit is federalized under Title 10, which is federal orders, they're now considered to be federal troops, which runs afoul of posse comitatus. I'm just saying, like, whether you agree with it or not, like, legally that distinction's been made. It's been upheld in court. This is all old precedent that's getting rehashed again.
So they're operating currently under what, like Title 10? Is that what it is?
So when you talk about nationalizing or deploying National Guardsmen, there are two principal titles under the Militia Act of 1923 that come into, or 1903 that come into play. One's Title 10, one's Title 32. Title 10 is the president becomes their ultimate authority figure. They fall in basically as a component of the active duty at that point. They become legally considered federal troops. And traditionally, you deploy them overseas. Like when I was in the Louisiana National Guard and I went to Iraq to go play in the sandbox for a year, that was under Title 10 orders. The president cut our orders and said, "You bunch of fuckers go over there and earn your pay." And we were over there with Army Reserve and Army and Active Duty Army and all the other branches. Not long after that, when Hurricane Katrina hit, we were under Title 32 orders, which places you under the authority of the governor of that state. And you are paid for by a combination of state and federal funds, but you are not considered to be a federalized troop because your report is to the governor's office, not to the president of the United States. it's a way to sidestep that whole issue of posse comitatus. And again, like this has all been fleshed out in court hearings in the past. There were a couple of National Guard units that were deployed down here for Hurricane Katrina that were originally deployed under Title 10. And after a court case, they had to have their orders recut for Title 32 because the court ruled that the president could not send troops to a U.S. city under Title 10 orders. They were considered to be federal troops at that time. They had to be deployed under Title 32. What's happening here, and this was an interesting argument Nick and I batted around, is that the president is taking the position, right, wrong, or otherwise, that because they are going to use the National Guard to secure federal facilities, they can do it under Title 10. That's never been tried in court before, and it actually makes a certain amount of sense why it might stand, because federal facilities are not considered to be property of the state in which they reside.
They don't have any jurisdiction.
But they do have jurisdiction. Right? It's that they are considered to be United States federal property. So like if you happen to have a military base or a federal facility near you, once you step foot onto those grounds, you are no longer in whatever state you reside in. You are on U.S. federal property. So in that way, this administration might be able to convince a judge, we're not deploying these National Guardsmen to go help ICE, kick in doors all over the city. They're only here to secure this facility, which is U.S. federal property. That might stand up in court. I don't know. But that's the argument that has to be made, because to just say we're going to have them spelunking around town on Title 10 orders, I don't think that's going to hold up in court, because it never has before.
If he can declare a insurrection as well, right? He has that authority to call up the militia.
But can you do that under Title 10 orders is the question. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things that are going on right now that they haven't necessarily been attempted to be argued in court, or if they have, not in this century or the last one. I mean,
I thought that it was in the U.S. Constitution, the ability for the president to suppress a rebellion, and ramming federal agents with vehicles looks pretty rebellion-y to me. The Militia Act of 1903 would then be pursuant to the Constitution. We're talking about the Dick Act, right? Mm-hmm. The Dick Act. Yep. Okay. Yep. Got it. I just want to make sure we were talking about the Dick Act. All right.
Yeah. So, gotcha, Drew.
Between that and Grindr, what's going on here?
It would have to. Got a lot on my mind. Okay. I'm assuming that the Militia Act of 1903 would have to be pursuant to the U.S. Constitution. I don't think it could overrule his authority to suppress a rebellion with the militia. So,
yeah, you just have to convince a judge, and there are a world of opinions out there that this is in fact an insurrection and not merely a protest that should be handled by local police.
Abraham Lincoln would probably agree with you.
Yeah, I'm not making any of those arguments. I'm just saying those arguments are going to have to be made. And I saw in the comments, DJ the Metalhead Mercenary pointed out exactly what I was talking about.
This
82nd, the next one down.
Let me jump. We'll get to that one in a second.
82nd Airborne originally got deployed to New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina under Title 10. I don't think they were the only unit deployed under Title 10 at that time. I mean,
I think the Oklahoma National Guard was also there.
Yeah, well, dude, at
Isn't
the time,
there also another title 32 or something?
Yep,
that's what he was saying.
So Title 32 is deployment is when you report to the state governor as a member of State Relief Act or Safe Relief efforts. I mean, at the time Katrina was happening, I was under Title 32 orders with the Louisiana National Guard, but I was like up to my eyeballs in problems, so I wasn't paying that close attention to the legalese at the time.
So Dangerous Freedom saying you have to declare the Insurrection Act and give the troops, because he says troops, not tools, a mission set, having troops just mulling around with no real orders other than general policing won't hold up. It has always ended bad.
True.
Phil, were you one of the guys that were going door to door, taking people's guns away?
Yeah, were you one of the tools going door to door?
It wasn't the Louisiana Guard. That was the Oklahoma National Guard that did that. There's a story on it from a few years back. I wish I had it up, but
I still struggle to find out like where those orders originated from, because
Moose,
if they had come from my chain of command, I would have heard them. I'm not saying we would have thought much of them, but we would have at least heard of them.
Right.
I didn't hear about any of that until Katrina was over and done. And then I was looking at everybody else like, did anybody else know that somebody's National Guard troops were running around taking guns from people? Because we didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, there was some unfair criticism or accusations, I should say, that the Louisiana Guard did that, and they did not. There is a story document in it that the Oklahoma National Guard actually did that.
And shame
Nice
on them
folks.
for doing it.
Indeed. So a woman in the ice ramming incident was shot in the arm, apparently. So, I mean, kind of going back to the story and the question, though, I mean, how much influence do you think Pritzker has? And I guess, how much accountability do you think he has in kind of throwing gas on the fire here? I mean, are people listening to him and saying, you know what, we're going to use this as an excuse to defy ICE? Or do you think his political posturing is really just kind of irrelevant?
Well, if the word peacefully and patriotically means insurrection, I don't even know where to begin with his statements. Seems like the bar has been set pretty low for this stochastic terrorism dynamic that we have.
Yeah, it probably is. And there was, well, we can jump into our next topic here, I guess. So let me just throw this up. So there was another incident in Chicago that made headlines when federal agents arrested a suspected Latin Kings leader accused of offering cash bounties to capture and kill a senior immigration officer. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois unsealed a criminal complaint charging 37-year-old Chicago resident Juan Espinoza Martinez with a single count of murder for hire. DHS basically, they identified the official Martinez allegedly placed a bounty on as commander-at-large of the U.S. Border Patrol, Chief Gregory Bovino. According to the complaint, Martinez is a ranking member of the Latin Kings, which is a gang notorious for violent crimes and drug trafficking across Chicago. DHS said Martinez is from Mexico and he entered the U.S. illegally at an unknown date and time. According to the complaint, Martinez sent Snapchat messages that read $2K on information when you get them and $10K if you take them down, which was allegedly in reference to Chief Bovino. The complaint says a confidential source told investigators that after a police-involved shooting on October 4th, 2025, involving Border Patrol agents in Chicago's Brighton Park neighborhood, Martinez had sent Latin Kings members to 39th and Kedsky, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, in response. And the source said that Martinez ordered members to obtain firearms and patrol the area around 26th Street and South Drake Avenue to defend Latin Kings territory. So my first question on this one, do you think this incident is an indication that gangs like the Latin Kings are in any way associated with any of the left-wing protests and left-wing militant groups that we've seen? Or do you think that they're just trying to defend the territory where they sell drugs and conduct their gang activities?
Point of order, Latin Kings?
House.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Latin Kings.
Did he not get the memo? There's no kings. No kings.
Well done, sir. I see how you tied that into the No Kings 2.0 coming up. Yeah.
Sorry,
I think
Jared.
he's staying in Pritzker's house, and it's completely funded by him.
Okay.
I don't think you really have to prove association to just prove that, or to make the obvious case that what you have here is a matter of like parallel interests. You know, the Latin Kings want nothing to do with more policing going on in the area they need to operate in to make money. And whether or not they are in league with like the left or the Democrats or anything else is honestly kind of irrelevant. They don't want ICE running around in their area, picking up potentially their members, who I'm going to assume is a certain segment of illegal immigrants in that area. They don't want any of that. Or clients. I mean, it. I guess what I'm saying is, like, you know, we've had these.
You're saying it's bad for business.
Yes, and I'm also saying that, like, not we, the four of us, but like we people on ostensibly in the big tent that are the right have had these arguments about, like, well, is this group allied with this group, or is this group in league with this group? And I'm like, it doesn't matter. There's such thing as parallel interests. Like, if a whole bunch of people all don't like ICE for different reasons, It doesn't matter whether they know each other or not. They all don't like ICE. They all want to hurt immigration officers. So they don't have to all be like a part of a big cohesive effort if they're all flowing the same direction.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
100%. But even better is that if you don't have to know the enemy of your enemy in order for him to do things that are aligned with your interests. See what I'm saying?
Well, if they like that, then they need to do the right thing and call it some kings.
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't want to beat Terrence to the punch on that topic, but like y'all have heard what I've said about the whole no kings thing. It seems to only flow one direction. When certain people are acting like kings, it's a-okay, but when other people act like kings, it's not okay. So
like the Latin kings.
Like the Latin kings, or Joe Biden, or so on and so forth. All that
Delaware kings.
Yes, that all seems to be a-okay. It's only when the orange man is in charge that people all of a sudden get really pissy about the Constitution and their rights and everything else.
Why do you think that is? Because before he ran for any kind of political office, he was one of the darlings of the left. He actually donated, and admittedly so, to a lot of both Democrats and Republicans. He gave a lot of money to
Democrat. Sorry,
well, he gave a lot of money. He gave a lot of money to those people, and then as soon as he ran for office, they turned on him. They turned on the dime.
I agree with Drew 110%. Like love or hate Donald J. Trump, the man is like about a half a millimeter to the right of 1996 Bill Clinton in terms of his policies. Y'all brought up Pam Bondi earlier. That freaking nutcase might as well be Janet Reno's illegitimate child. Like this current administration.
Bipolar.
Well, I mean, but
she's bipolar.
To be fair, like JFK, if he was alive today, would probably get run out of the Democratic Party.
Oh, JFK would get run out of the Republican Party. What are you talking about? Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like I get aggravated with this administration because they're not to the right enough. And other people get pissed off because they're not like the second coming of Mao Zedong. It's like nobody likes this guy for this. Everyone dislikes Donald J. Trump for different reasons.
So we all agree.
Look,
common ground.
I'm just calling it the way it is. I feel the way I do about issues. I take the position I do. I have my own bends and my own ideology. I acknowledge all that. But because of that, there's not a single politician alive and in office today I agree with 100%.
Nor should you.
Nor should you. Well, you can agree with them, but you can't trust them. Never, never, never trust politicians. Distrusting politicians is actually your birthright as an American.
And your civic duty.
As is planning.
I think it is. I think you're right. I think it is your civic duty. You must question them, even if it's someone that you think is a good dude that the second they take office, you should be questioning them, not as a matter.
The second they accept a $300 million aircraft in exchange for protection, executive orders, yeah, you should question them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like if I ran for office and I became a senator or something like that, I would fully expect like all of you to question me. To be honest with you, like you should.
Like we would question you nicely.
Well,
you'd be very polite about it.
I'm just thinking about what dirt I might have.
And I would lie to your face, Drew. Like, no, I'm not. I'm not getting tips for my stock market picks. How dare you, Drew? How dare you say that?
Well, when you're getting waterboarded with diesel fuel, we'll see how.
Good God.
Yes.
How quick that changes.
Dark real quick.
Is it waterboarding if you use diesel? Like that is the question. No one seems
diesel
to want to
boarding. Yeah.
Diesel
boarding. Yeah.
Diesel boarding doesn't come across the tongue quite as well as waterboarding, but
Well, we have a dissenter here. His administration is full of big talk and half measures, declaring Antifa a terror organization and then allowing them to continue to operate almost unchecked is one example.
I don't disagree with him, but good sir, name me one administration that has not been full of big talk and half measures.
Fair.
Not in my life.
I turned 43 in just 2 days.
Fair.
In 40.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. But in 30 years of the memory that I still have that I didn't get bounced out of my head by TBI, I can't remember one administration that has ever like come in, big talk, guns loaded, done what they claim to do, and then gone home. It's always big talk, half measures. That's the nature of being a politician.
Well, you have to do all the big talk and promises to get elected, knowing full well that probably can't back up a third of it.
Thank you, Dangerous Freedoms. But the challenge still stands. Tell me one administration not guilty of that, and that's not a slight, and it's certainly not a defense of this administration. Just got to get my thought out there.
I do wonder how much enforcement and how much action is actually being taken that we aren't able to see. Are they mapping out the network? Are they targeting their funding mechanisms, their legal funding mechanisms to have their assets seized, and that just takes some time? I don't know. Because this is all pretty recent that the declaration has come about, and I think it's spot on. That thing I am. Yeah.
But I mean, during his first administration, when we were witnessing all the protests, especially that one in May or something like that they had, and they were across the street from the White House, and they set fire to that church, and they were just going crazy. At that point, you would think that he would have probably done something then, but his first administration was a little bit disappointing, I thought. There were some things that he should have acted on, which he didn't.
Yeah.
Well, he did have his hands full with the whole.
Now DJ's got a point, though. I mean, hard to deliver in 4 years with the absolute slog of bureaucracy they have to deal with to only be marginally effective. That's a fair statement. True. It is.
Although, just for the sake of argument, this is the reason why I said quite a number of years ago, I'm like, the smartest money for Donald Trump would probably be, rather than running for president, would be to start a super PAC.
Yeah.
Start a super PAC and use it to shove MAGA conservatives or hardcore conservatives through the channels of the Republican Party and into office. Because we've seen this over and over and over, where it's really the primaries that are almost the more important part of any election at this point. It's who gets on that ticket. So if you're the person that chooses the person that goes on the ticket, doesn't that give you more influence over the policy, especially over a long term?
Wait,
but with super PACs, we're go ahead. Sorry.
I was just being stupid. I was going to say I didn't think the deep state existed.
Okay, Jared, you are way too smart of a guy for that to not have been abject sarcasm.
It's Antifa that does not exist, Jared. You must repeat this over and over to anyone that will listen. But like the whole super PAC thing, though, it's like even Joshua a little bit ago was saying that repeal the Patriot Act. There was an opportunity to let that sunset, and they didn't. I think just 2 years ago, and I think that the Patriot Act should go the way as the super PAC should go the way of getting rid of the Patriot Act as well, because they're basically just throwing tons of money at our politics, and whoever's got the most money seems to win.
Okay, so two things. First of all, I don't think getting rid of the Patriot Act matters at this point, because even with the Patriot Act in place, the NSA has been caught doing things that still violate the laws, even given that egregious abuse of power. Huh?
And they still don't do anything about it.
But I guess that's my point. You repeal the Patriot Act, do you really think they're going to stop? I don't. So, I'm not saying
them a little bit lesser.
Stop spying on us, or
stop spying on anybody.
No, they're not going to stop. Why would they?
Okay. So I guess what I'm saying is not to say we shouldn't repeal the Patriot Act, only that, okay, if we repeal the Patriot Act, we're still having faith that this bureaucracy is actually going to do what's legal, which I have no faith in them anymore.
Well, but that's the thing is, that's why I don't want the Patriot Act, is because when you discover these things, what they, then it's illegal. We don't need to make it legal for them to spy on us.
No, but I guess what I'm saying is that they already do illegal things for which they're not held accountable. So what makes us think that the currently legal things that would then become illegal will suddenly stop if they're illegal?
We'll just hide it more.
They'll just hide it. I mean, instead of allowing Edward Snowden to run off to Russia next time, they'll just friggin' slip something in his drink and he'll kill him from a heart attack at 30 years old. I mean,
the interesting thing about him is, at the time there were a lot of people who criticized him, and they're like, and what he did was wrong, but Well, there were people that were like, "Oh, why didn't you go to your superiors?" And it's like, come on, give me a fucking break. Like, that's going to go nowhere. Like, if he went to, the head of the NSA or somebody, they're just going to laugh him out of their office. So, I mean, I understand why probably, he's saying, well, I felt like I had to do this. Is there an alternative way that he probably could have handled this? Maybe. I don't live in that circle, so I don't know for sure, but he probably did put some people at risk.
You could argue he put people at risk, but I'm going to be really frank and honest. I don't think given the culture that is within the intelligence communities of this country, I don't think they would have allowed him to release his information through any legal channel. It would have been buried. He would have been thrown in prison. He would have been killed. They were not going to allow this to come out. So
I believe you, because I think wasn't one of the things that came out of that, because it all ended up like filtering through like WikiLeaks and stuff, and then they released that Apache video of them like killing somebody or something, and that was like
that was Bradley Manning. That was Bradley Manning.
Was it Bradley Manning?
Yeah. Which, to be fair, that looked like a shit kill, but I don't know what mechanisms there would have been to address that internally.
Steve Marshall says our local Democrat senator has raised $21 million this month alone for his reelection, and that's the problem right there.
It is the problem, but this is why I say I think Donald J. Trump starting like the MAGA super PAC, whatever, is probably the best long-term goal, because do I think it's right that money is what elects politicians in this country? No. But I'm also not enough of a child to think that that's not how it happens. So knowing that's how the game is played, why don't we play to win?
Well, DJ brings up a point. How much of that is from ACPAC and other organizations instead of supporting citizens? Who knows?
But again,
I mean, they do have certain accounting standards, so I'm sure it's probably on a spreadsheet somewhere, right?
I'm sure a really creative accountant could make it legal whether it's supposed to be or not.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, again, knowing that's what wins, knowing that's how you win the game, why not win the game? A lot of people get really squeamish when I say things like that, because they say that it sounds like a moral, flexibly moral position. But I'm like, but if that's how you win the game, do you want to lose by the rules, or do you want to win? And that's why I say things like, okay, well, if we acknowledge that the best candidate on earth with a war chest of a couple $1,000s is never going to get elected, period, end discussion, not on the national stage, or a pretty decent candidate that's mostly aligned with our values has a pretty good shot if we get enough money behind him, why wouldn't we get the money behind him?
I think it goes back to, well, you and Nick were talking about this, I think a couple podcast episodes ago, when you were talking about rules for radicals and how one of them is basically getting the other side to play by their own rules and using it against them, essentially. And the Republican Party is excellent at playing by their own rules and letting that be their Achilles heel. So when you ask, why not, play the game that, is currently being played, that's why. I think that they have some sort of weird moral barrier or whatever you want to call it. They're allergic to it.
Well, and understand, like, I would love to be able to play the game with honor. I would love to be able to play the game by the rules, and there's a certain level of morality I'm not willing to jump across. But speaking from the perspective of someone who's been, in some weird situations in my life, if you're the only person playing by the rules, you're going to lose every time. So if both parties to a conflict or disagreement are willing to argue in good faith, are willing to play the game by the rules, are willing to come to the table with a common landscape and may the best man win, that's one thing. But when you come to a football game and the other side shows up with brass knuckles and knives under their belt to shiv you on the field, you're not playing by the rules. You're not going to win by the rules. You're going to lose because they're not playing by the rules anymore. So if they come to the field with brass knuckles and shivs, why on earth would I agree to play by the rules knowing I'm going to lose by the rules? I'm going to I'm going to play by the same rules they are.
To Steve Marshall's point here, the Democrats impeached Trump the day he was sworn in, yet the Republicans never impeached Biden. And that's true. And I don't honestly believe the Republicans ever thought that Donald Trump would regain the White House ever.
Oh God,
and
no.
and so I think they said, you know what, the Trump era is over. It's done. And it looked pretty grim there when all those lawsuits were happening and they were coming after him. And it really looked like that they were going to dismantle his entire organization, his entire business. And, I think that probably on the Republican side, my guess is they're like, well, the Trump era is over with. So we don't want the Democrats to play hardball with us anymore. And we won't do that with them again. So we'll just leave it alone, is what I think.
Real quick on that impeachment tangent. I don't think that impeachment was ever about convicting Donald Trump of a crime. It was about slander. And there were some statements made by Nancy Pelosi that he's been impeached twice and he will be impeached forever now. That tells me that she was just looking to mar his name with this impeachment process. So I could see how that being just kind of ineffective and stupid. Maybe the Republicans just didn't waste time on that because they knew the Senate would never approve that anyway, even if they had the votes to impeach in the House.
I mean, there's one argument to be made there, but
just my thoughts on it, because has anyone ever been convicted? I think they've all been dismissed by the Senate, the impeachment charges.
Against Trump?
No, any president.
Clinton was the last one I could think of that's within my lifetime. I don't.
But didn't the Senate dismiss those? Am I wrong on that?
I want to say so, but
they were going to go after like Nixon, but he agreed to resign. And I think the next closest example would be like the 1800s or something, because they did that shit all the time.
I want to say Johnson maybe, but I don't remember if he was. I'd have to
like Andrew Johnson or somebody. Yeah, we'd have to look that one up. But I think you're probably right.
You just got to get a lot of people to agree on that, not just 12.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, we'll jump into our next and last topic that I have prepared. Give me 1 second. Pull that up. So our last one comes from Chicago again, where Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order blocking federal immigration agents from using city-owned property for immigration enforcement operations, which was just one day after it was discovered the city waved off cops responding to the ambush on ICE agents. Johnson has established ICE-free zones as part of his Protecting Chicago initiative, and at a press conference, he stated, "Today we're signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids."
Were they before?
I guess so. Says the Trump administration must end the war on Chicago. Johnson continued, the Trump administration must end this war against Americans and its attempt to dismantle our democracy.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So I guess he says that he's directed Chicago agencies and departments to identify spaces that have been targeting, that have targeted ICE, that have been targeted during ICE raids, and post a clear message to federal immigration officers that the city-owned property would not be used for immigration enforcement, including, like I said, a staging area, processing location, or operations base. So to answer your question, it sounds like that was the case. He then went on to accuse the extreme right of refusing to accept the results of the Civil War, stating that they have repeatedly called for a rematch, but in the coming weeks, we will use this opportunity to build greater resistance. Chicagoans are clear that militarizing our troops in our city as justification to further escalate a war in Chicago will not be tolerated. The right wing in this country wants a rematch of the Civil War.
Whoa.
Guy needs to get on Wikipedia.
Wind that back for me a little bit.
Yeah, he made statements that the Republicans won't accept the outcome of the Civil War. I think the Republicans were very happy with the outcome of the Civil War.
Yeah, he's saying that the far right
fucking idiot
basically refuses to accept the results of the Civil War and that, they want a rematch.
I'm pretty happy with the results. We freed all of their slaves.
I don't think he's aware that that almost every
Boyka was a Republican?
in the
everyone that perpetrated Jim Crow in the South was a Democrat.
Well, everyone in the Confederate States of America in the administration was a Democrat, except for two guys, I believe, which were independents. There's actually a list of all their cabinet guys and what their political affiliations are.
Dumbass.
But
way to show your ass.
Holy Jesus.
Do you think he like somebody was like, "Hey guy, just to let you know." Do you think he felt any shame? Do you think he, or is that part of his brain just been burned out?
I wonder if he's a product of Chicago public education, because if so, that's like the best rule. That's the best example I can think of why the Department of Education needs to be.
That sounded more like a product of crystal meth. What a dipshit.
He's been on TV talking about this for several days now, repeating the same things, because we all know that if you repeat these things, then I guess it becomes the truth somehow. But
Jared, were you aware that the Republicans won a rematch of the Civil War?
Really?
Yes, according to the mayor of Chicago, the Republicans want Civil War 2.0 because they won't accept the results of it.
Interesting.
Yeah, see, I thought that city property thing was like, like those goblins after the election, like, if you voted for Trump, you can't have sex with me. Well, it wasn't an issue.
Your terms are acceptable, ma'am.
I have heard a lot of people make this claim, and it's total bullshit. Like it's really just people being intellectually dishonest. But there are actually people, and I've heard people who are like history majors who have said this, that the sides switch politically. So like basically trying to justify that their side wasn't for slavery, saying that the Republican side was really the Democrats and the Democrats were really the Republicans. And there's really no evidence to suggest that whatsoever. There was a guy who's a historian that totally disproved that. He was on Steven Crowder. They actually did a whole, I think Steven Crowder talked to him for like an hour, and they talked about that very topic and what total bullshit it is. And this guy may actually be a believer that, they switched parties magically after the Civil War,
I'm aware of the apologetics for that, and it revolved around some Republicans who were being shits and trying to court racists in the South. And to my knowledge, it was a very limited campaign, and it does not mean that the entire party platforms swapped.
I mean, throughout the course of our country, our existence, 250 years, there have been people who have switched parties, but not on that scale.
Well, what parties led the Japanese internment?
I'm pretty sure that was under FDR.
That was a Democrat-led initiative.
Yeah, where they rounded
that is your evidence
in camps out in the desert
based on race.
Yes.
And so
exactly what they did.
I think that's your evidence that the party swap didn't occur.
Yeah, I don't think it did. I think that's total.
I think agenda
BS.
change is all it is.
So, back to what this guy's trying to do. Though I mean, forget how his argument's absurd. It should not be taken seriously by anyone. It's absolutely ridiculous and just so factually incorrect that I don't even know where to begin. But how enforceable do you think his order is in practice? Can a city legally block federal agents from using public property? Probably. But back to what you guys were saying earlier, if it's a federal installation, as Phil mentioned, the second you step foot on that installation, you're on federal property, just like Indian reservations. You're in another country, basically. The second you step on an Indian reservation, you're not in the United States anymore.
Yep. So I think blocking them from using public property, they might get away with if they do something really, really asinine, like friggin' park city trucks on the property so that ICE physically cannot occupy it. They might actually get away with that. Preventing ICE from using private property, like a parking lot or whatever, I don't know. I don't like the idea of ICE using private property for a military operation or a law enforcement operation, but like historically speaking, like if your local cops pull up in your area and say, "Hey, we're going to park a couple of cars in the parking lot," I don't think legally you can tell them no. And if you can't tell local cops that, you certainly can't tell federal police that. So I don't know how any of this works. What I can tell you is that if they continue to push this, I can certainly see the administration reacting poorly and probably finding some good pressure point to cause Chicago to question how far they want to take this.
Well, I mean, you've got that going on. And then, I mean, Jared, you were in law enforcement. What do you think's going through the heads of some of the rank and file Chicago PD right now that were told to stand down while ICE agents, and I know that they're federal agents, but they're still cops. When they were told to stand down while other cops were being basically ambushed.
I don't think they liked it one bit. But if you do, if you go against the orders of your administration, the admin staff, you're not going to have a job. They're going to fire you right then and there. You're going to be suspended, and a week later you're going to be fired. Just if anything, just for insubordination.
I listened to
so they have no recourse. So if it's a life or death situation, and they're saying fuck it, we're going to go respond, because we would want someone to respond to us in a life or death situation. We're being shot at. We're being boxed in. We have no idea who's doing the boxing in. We just know people are doing it. They're shooting at us and they're trying to fucking kill us. And you go to respond, and then there's no recourse, if you're trying to save someone else's life.
No, well, there is, but it's going to be tied up in court. It'd be tied up in court.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just
for years, and you're still going to be unemployed.
Fair.
As a street cop, even as a lieutenant or captain, going against those orders.
Now, don't laugh at me, but what about the power of the police union? Don't they have any pull?
Again, it's going to be tied up in court. You're going to lose your job, and ultimately, that's the bottom line for most of those people. Is it's their livelihood and their main source of income for their family.
Yeah, but if any of us here were being ordered not to help somebody who is being assaulted, because those are still people, those are still human beings.
Yeah.
Being attacked violently.
But has there been any reports or anything of Chicago PD going in to help at all?
That I don't know.
If there was,
I have not looked that up, in all fairness. So
they don't have to assist with a ICE enforcement action in order to protect innocent life.
This is just a call of this is just other officers that are saying we're being ambushed. We need help. That's all.
So I could tell from the radio traffic that they did not agree with that. The dispatcher was confirming, the request to pull back all units. And the statement was not like, yes, pull them back. It was not an affirmative, I support this, pull them back. It was, those are the orders we are being given. That was the statement made on the radio.
One of them was killed.
That does not sound like agreement.
Let's suppose that they were boxed in and one or two of them was killed. And it was discovered that, through the police chief or somebody, one of the aldermen or the mayor or somebody said, you know what, we told them to stand down. What culpability would they have, do you think?
Zero.
None.
Why?
Zero.
They would talk their way out of it.
Well, they would talk their way out of it. The bureaucracy would protect them. But last but not least, like the Supreme Court has made this case multiple times that police have no responsibility to protect private property or citizens' lives. I don't think any court is going to hold their feet to the fire that that the ICE agent dying is on that officer or on that administration. Just calling it the way it is.
I don't think it's on the officer. I think it's on the administration at that point.
I don't think anything is going to happen.
I don't even think the administration has a duty to protect.
That's what I'm saying. Legally, I don't think they do. I think it's stupid, but legally, I don't think they do. And to Drew's point about earlier, he said that that's still human life, that's still a person calling for assistance. We do have to acknowledge the fact that like there is a not insignificant portion of this country right now that does not consider ICE agents, conservatives, or Trump voters to be human. So depending on how twisted your viewpoint is, there's probably a person out there who heard that and thought to themselves privately behind the radio, good, I hope they get killed.
So I guess my question to that would be, what was the content of the oath those officers took?
The oath doesn't mean much.
No.
To most.
Look, you're talking about a similar oath to the one that military veterans took, and there's been plenty of them that have wound up on the other side of all these protests and these organizations.
I don't even think it's a matter of the oath they took. This is just basic morals and ethics.
Yeah,
and standing by your word, your oath is part of those morals,
absolutely
part of that morality.
What I'm saying is,
officers.
I don't think there's anything in that oath where you're going to go, oh, here's the line where it says you need to, do this.
I mean, are there other situations where those officers would be okay just not helping somebody who they don't like or disagree with?
But it's not just somebody they don't like or don't agree with, Drew. Think back to the episode that me and Nick talked about, rules for radicals. These people fundamentally do not believe that if you are an enemy of the revolution, if you're a counter-revolutionary, you are not human, you are against everything that is good, your very existence is repugnant to the will of the people. In their viewpoint, they do not acknowledge you as one of their countrymen or deserving of their assistance. Like, I don't know.
It would almost be the same as us saying that Nazis were human and treating them as such.
Precisely.
It's the same mindset, just in 180-degree fashion.
Yeah. So Steve Marshall says, don't forget the Supreme Court ruled it's not LEO responsibility to protect. Maybe that applies to other officers as well then. If
somebody would make a good argument to that effect. But like that's all I'm saying. Like I'm not saying any of this, Drew, to like say I disagree with you. Because I don't. I'm saying that the same thing we talked about a minute ago, where I talked about I'm not willing to play by the rules. If the other side isn't willing to play by the rules, I'm going to play by the same set of rules they are, and I'm going to beat them at their own game. The problem is that you are coming from the perspective of a moral person who has at least a baseline value on human life. And you're probably putting yourself in the position of those ICE agents thinking, if I was under attack and I was calling for help, God, I would hope somebody would come to my aid. Right. But you're applying that unconsciously to a group of people who fundamentally do not think the way you do. And they do not see those ICE agents as human beings or people or their fellow countrymen. They do not see them as law enforcement officers. Their oath in their mind only applies to people that think and believe the way they do. Those people are enemies of our democracy. Those people are Nazis. They're fascists. They're not human beings. So them dying is not a problem.
It's the HOA Karens.
Yes. At the end of the day, that's what we're dealing with. Look at the number of
people that wanted Charlie Kirk killed and that celebrated his killing. Look at the number of people saying that, oh, I wish Trump would have got shot. One of my clients said, "Oh, I wish they would have never missed Trump."
You
know,
I tell this story.
To be that callous is hard to understand.
It is because we're moral people.
I'm just going to tell you. I'm just going to tell you guys. During COVID, I had a very eye-opening moment where it fundamentally reshuffled the way I view human beings. During COVID, I was one of the vaccine holdouts. I flat out told my supervisor, I refuse, not doing it. I'll fill out whatever paperwork you want, any religious exemption you want. I'm not doing it. If you got to fire me, but the answer is no. And when I said no, I meant no, I'm prepared to be fired. Do what you're going to do. At one point, I dialed into a work meeting, and the other 2 or 3 people that were just kind of chewing the fat because they were there early didn't realize I dialed into this meeting yet. And I literally overheard 2 coworkers that I had personally known for almost 10 years at this point saying that anyone that didn't get the vaccine deserved to die, Anyone that didn't vaccinate their children deserve to have their kids taken from them. These are two older women that I've literally like met in person and like wished their spouses and kids well. And they didn't know me. They didn't know, like, they didn't realize what they were saying was aimed at me, but it was. And I fundamentally view people differently for that moment forward, because I realized when these people believe that they are well within their rights to unperson you and they think there won't be consequences, they will.
And if they have the opportunity to put you on a cattle car, they absolutely will.
They might not, but they're certainly not going to lift a finger in my defense.
No,
they're not going to lose any sleep if you are in that cattle car.
Yep, because I am a bad person. And here's the thing of it. To those two older ladies, I still wish them no ill will. I hope they friggin' retire and live happy, long lives and they die in their sleep painlessly. I wish no ill will towards them. But I can also say that from that day forward, I will never look at the two of them the same for the rest of my life.
You shouldn't.
Hell no. You literally said out loud, you wish my kid would be taken from me. I will take that to my grave.
Yeah, I mean, we can forgive people, but you cannot forget that kind of stuff. And you do have to have discernment. You know, you can never trust anyone like that after they've said something like that.
Yeah.
Ever again.
So to Drew's point, the four of us, I suspect, in that position would say, screw orders. I'm going to go I can't sit here and listen to this person die potentially. Right. But I'm going to tell you that when you apply your morality to another person that very obviously doesn't display it, we're giving them more credit than they probably deserve.
I don't know if it's fair to say that the cops viewed the ICE officials as subhuman. Definitely whoever gave them the orders, because I'm going to say based on just that sliver of radio traffic I heard, it did not look like at least that cop agreed with it. He was just repeating the order as this is what has been stated to me. But
no, that's fair. I guess what I'm saying is that somebody on that radio probably is all the way at the other end of the spectrum.
Perhaps, but I hope those guys are at least analyzing that situation, and I hope it affected them. I hope that they are looking at themselves in the mirror with disgust right now, saying, I did not do right.
If you have a conscience.
And if I'm in that situation again, I will not make that mistake again, because there's some things more important than our jobs.
Well, they're going to probably have a chance to address that again, because if federal agents ignore the ICE-free zones, what recourse does the city actually have? Are they going to have Chicago PD start arresting ICE agents?
That would be entertaining to watch.
Well, I guess they could really come issue.
Like, is that what the mayor thinks he's going to do? Is he going to send the police to arrest ICE agents? Like, because otherwise his directive doesn't mean shit.
That's how civil wars start.
Mm-hmm.
Really, because now the ICE agents can arrest the Chicago PD officer for interference. And
then when you throw in the Civil War rhetoric, you know, you're just throwing gas on the fire, and you're just really trying to shape public perception that, in fact, we are in some sort of civil conflict.
Yeah, but I don't think the mayor has another play at this point. Like, he's turned the dial up so high on the rhetoric. If he doesn't do anything, he's lost all credibility with his own voters, his own base, his own agencies.
Well, yeah, he's painted himself into a corner at this point.
Yeah. So what does he do? I have no earthly idea. He's got to do something. He can't not. He's stuck his chin out and dared the administration to tag him on the end of the chin. And if he takes one on the chin and doesn't do anything in return, he just looks like a punk.
Well, this is definitely a political statement against federal authority. And like you're saying, you know, at some point he's going to have to shit or get off the pot, right?
Yeah. Supremacy clause. Hey, I'm not saying I've always agreed with the supremacy clause, but I will say that this current situation seems to really want to test it.
Well, then he should test it in court. He should take him to court, and it'll be settled out in court. But holler in that this is an attack on American citizens, and they want to start Civil War II, which I'm pretty sure he's not talking about court there. He's talking about an armed, bloody conflict.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Well, let's say that
He's stoking the fire.
let's say other cities follow this guy's lead and they create ice-free zones, kind of like the whole sanctuary city bullshit. What precedent do you think that this could potentially set nationwide?
I mean, it's going to end up in SCOTUS's lab sooner or later because several states tried to stand up Second Amendment sanctuary cities, and those got swatted down in court. So if we have a sanctuary city where ICE isn't allowed to operate and a sanctuary city that gets torn up that you can have whatever guns you want, like sooner or later, this is going to wind up in SCOTUS's lap. And I don't know that Supreme Court is going to have the ability to constantly sidestep these big overarching issues. You know what I'm
Probably
saying?
not.
Then you're going to have governors and mayors and whatnot ignoring SCOTUS decisions
Yeah. Well,
and doing whatever they want.
and to be fair, the minute you have that, you're in the situation where you have to acknowledge that the Supreme Court does not have enforcement powers, and they weren't really ever meant to, but the executive branch sure as hell does.
Mm-hmm.
And when a state is wholesale ignoring the Supreme Court, the executive branch is supposed to step in and tap on the shoulder and remind them, you are still one of these United States. And those justices told you to knock it off.
I don't know if anything that I've said in the past is correct or not. I've been of the thought that we're probably in some sort, and I don't know where on the timeline, but I think we're probably in some sort of like American version of the Irish Troubles.
Yep.
I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to see any shit like that happen here. That would be like the worst fucking thing that could happen. I know you and Nick talked about balkanization. That would be way worse than anything we're seeing right now. A lot of people
Balkanizing? Why?
If we had balkanization, if the country split up and we had some sort of like national divorce and states took up sides like we did in the Civil War, that it would be pretty bad.
But why would it have to be violent? Why couldn't that be a peacefully agreed upon divorce?
Because there's no such thing as blue states, only blue cities.
Yeah.
I
I have no belief that it would be nonviolent. There's no fucking way. There'd be a lot of arguments over resources. It'd get ugly.
The first biggest problem is every military base in this country that's in one of the states that wants to secede, the federal government is not going to allow that land, that equipment, those troops to just go to this now foreign nation that's butt up against their own borders.
You'd have a ton of arguments about water rights.
You'd have a ton of issues about everything. Access. But take this down to a microcosm. Let's just look at my state, and then I have to bug out of here. I'm going to wind up in Hawk with my wife. But just take my state as an example. Let's say the state of Louisiana voted, and by some freaking miracle of bad judgment, 50.1% of the voting public said, we do not want to be part of the United States of America anymore. Damn the orange man, blah, 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 blah. What's going to wind up happening is that you're going to wind up with Shreveport, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and possibly Lafayette. And Lafayette's a maybe. That's a wild card. But you're going to wind up these three big metro areas that are all going to be run almost exclusively by Democrats, and they're all going to want the hell out of the United States because they don't like Republicans. They don't want to live under Republican rule, blah, 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 blah. Literally, the rest of the freaking state, which is probably 80% of the landmass, is all going to say, to hell with that. So there are no blue states. There's blue cities. There's blue metro areas. And I don't think there is such a thing as a clean way to break this country at this point. It's not north versus south anymore.
I agree with you.
It's suburbs and rural areas versus urban areas. And that is not something you just split. It's not like shaving off a state, because the problem is that if you shave off California, for example, about 2/3 of California is as red as it gets, and they are not going to want to go along with what the coast and the knuckleheads down in San Francisco, San Diego, and Los Angeles are doing.
And that 2/3 holds all the water for the rest of the state.
They hold all the water. They hold a lot of the military bases. They hold a ton of the minerals. They hold a lot of the farmland. The rest of California has a bunch of tech bros and a lot of homeless people. They cannot sustain themselves without the tax cattle that is Northern California. Why do you think they've fought efforts to break up California so many times? But if they divorce themselves, or if they split off from the rest of the country, the rest of that state ain't going to want to go along with it. So then this big old state that's California is going to fracture even further. And that's going to happen everywhere.
I know you have to jump, but before you do, I wanted to get one last thought from you. Based on just kind of everything going on right now, what is your gut feeling as to where we're headed? And then I have the same question for Drew and Jared.
I think
where do you think we're at?
I think we're already, well, first of all, like, I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, not all civil wars are inherently kinetic, even though a lot of them end up going that direction. And we're already eyeball deep in one. We're already eyeball deep in a civil war that up to this point has been like fifth generational warfare. It's all been propaganda. It's all been social media. It's all been engineered. It's all been money, and it's all been lawfare. It hasn't gone full-blown kinetic North versus South yet, but it doesn't have to be to still be a very obvious civil war. So, like, the question of, are we heading to a civil war? Bubba, we're already there. It's been happening for years.
War?
It is 110% a cold civil war at this point. Whether it morphs into full-blown Irish Trouble style bombings and guerrilla warfare or not is an open question. And whether it winds up as a full-blown like Bosnia and Serbia situation, or, you know, like pick your nation that is fractured and gone to war with itself, whether it ends up there, I'm not sure yet. But we are already in the middle of a civil war. We have been for years. This is not new. The only thing that's really new is that more and more people are starting to be aware that there's something weird going on.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I appreciate y'all having me, guys. I swore to my family I
wouldn't
stay on with y'all until
Happy
10 o'clock at night local.
Happy birthday to you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank y'all.
It was great chatting with you.
We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you.
So, Jared and Drew, where do you think we're at based on what Phil was saying?
Yeah, basically, I just think all unvaccinated people should die and have their kids taken away.
That's pretty rough.
I'm just playing. I think we are seeing a slow burn that could continue for decades longer. I don't have a whole lot of. I mean, what could we really compare it to, other than the actual Civil War, which fizzled for.
Well, Dangerous Freedom
decades.
Thinks that we've been in low intensity conflict for 10 years. What do you think was the demarcation point there, Dangerous Freedoms? What do you think was the canary in the coal mine? If you think there is one. I mean, you know, if we compare it to like the Irish Troubles, you know, you could supposedly, if you depending on which historian you read, you know, they say it started 50 years before 1968. Then 1968, that's when it started getting kinetic, and then it lasted till 1998. So, I mean, to Phil's point about it being kind of a cold civil war, maybe it is. Maybe we're going to have another 10 years of this or more before something kinetic does happen.
Well, I think it could even last longer than that. Decades and decades.
Morgan says, author here, I wrote a book about how the Muslims agitate the U.S. citizens into civil disobedience. What is the title of the book?
Is it fiction or reality? Or documentary?
It definitely went hot during the run-up to this 2016 election.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've got some points there. I think that at some point, you know, when historians look back, they probably will cite, you know, 2015, 2016 as an inflection point.
I think it goes back to about 2012 when Obama was reelected. That's when you really, really started to see things, I don't want to say escalate, but ramp up a little bit.
And DJ says the troubles really started centuries before. It just changed with the nature of civil war and influence of Britain. Yeah, there's historians who have made that argument as well. When I was doing my podcast episode on the troubles, came across a lot of stuff like that where, you know, people were saying it really goes back even further. But for the context of a podcast episode that I can't do for like 3 hours, you know, I had to condense things down. But you've got a point. What else do we have? But I don't know. I mean, so where do you think this is? Where do you guys think that this is headed?
I don't decades more of slow burn.
For sure,
Final
But it's
answer.
not going to look like a civil war in 1862.
It couldn't, because like average people were leaving home to go join up volunteer squads, right? Back then.
Right.
And we're not really set up to do that kind of thing in this day and age. So there'll be domestic squabbles amongst the civilian population, and I don't think it's really a civil war until the government starts taking a side.
I think it's going to be more federal versus state government, and then people taking sides from there.
Well, unless the Democrats take control of the federal government next go around, and then who the hell knows what that looks like at that point.
Right.
I remember sitting in my apartment in the ghetto in Norfolk thinking these people are going to riot if he loses.
If Trump loses? I didn't catch who he is.
He'll tell us in a second.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably right. It probably could go a lot of ways. It could be slow burn. It could be. I think one of the things that might change the landscape of things is the fact that, they're declaring Antifa. You said Obama 08.
Obama.
Oh, okay. But, the fact that they are declaring, organizations like Antifa as terrorist organizations, that designation does, whether you think that there's teeth or not, that does make a difference. But I mean, what's going to be the result of it
saves a pathway legally for the federal government to do a little bit more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are they going to go after Antifa like, the prior administration did on, the J6 people? Because, I mean, they went after people's grandmothers and all kinds of people. Like they spared no expense making sure that they documented everyone that was at the Capitol that day. I think if they're going to go after Antifa, they've really got their work cut out for them. They do need,
Hence the reason the Patriot Act is not going to go anywhere.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that last part. What'd you say about the Patriot Act?
I said, hence the reason why the Patriot Act isn't going to go anywhere.
It won't. There was an opportunity to sunset it, and they didn't do that, and they should have. But
if we're expecting Pam fucking Bondi to go after Antifa as aggressively as the prior administration went after people's like aunties and grandmas and shit for walking through an open door, I think we're going to be disappointed.
I think that's a fair criticism.
I just have no faith in her.
Well, I mean, some of the people there in the administration, I mean, I've never worked, in an administration before, so I have no real context, but I mean, I'm sure that's a very difficult job, and I'm sure you can't always do the things that people want you to do when they want you to do. Investigations do take time, so I'd give her a little bit of grace on that.
What? Have you been keeping up with what they just did with the FPC?
Okay, well, I mean, if you were the Attorney General right now, Drew, I mean, what would you do? You'd probably realize that you'd have to. Some of the shit takes years to do investigations, to indict people.
I mean, she could free up a whole lot of time by not actively assailing our gun rights, for example.
That I agree with, yeah.
So she could just knock that shit off and go focus on actual bad people.
Not specifically talking about like indicting, people that they label domestic terrorists.
Yeah. Free up all that manpower, all those resources.
This administration is made by far. Send her back to.
I can't read it.
Goodness, we're getting
me on. Well, I didn't get to read it.
Okay, well, let me put it back up. Well, hold on. All right, there you go.
What tissue? That's hilarious. I heard that she was a lobbyist for Cotter. Is that correct? I think she can go live in Cotter. Be super happy there.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll just be happy. Somebody told me that today. I haven't verified it yet.
The point that I'm trying to make is that, like, just because you get put into a position doesn't mean that you can just start going after people right away. it takes
except
time.
for
Now,
law-abiding gun
I
owners and
think
good
that-
people in the FPC and all their members.
Correct.
They can't. She has lots of free time and
okay.
revenue and resources to go after those people.
I think people will, certainly look back on what she's doing with that, and she'll be judged very harshly for it.
I'm way ahead of them. Taking care of it now.
I think as far as some of the other stuff, look, we heard the same thing when Trump was in office the first time about locking Hillary Clinton up. And there were a lot of people that were all for that. But had he done that, what do you think would have happened?
She would be in prison.
You sure?
I don't understand. If he had locked her up?
If they had legally gone out, picked a crime for Hillary Clinton and gone after her, what do you think would have happened? People would have lost their fucking minds. One interesting thing in comparing this to the Troubles is that the historians refer to it as a religious war, when in truth it was Irish versus traitors that sided with a foreign government. That is certainly one aspect of it, but I don't know that was, the entire quilt there. What's this one? Steve Marshall says, if Republicans get marginalized and feel underrepresented, fuck, I can't even talk tonight. Underrepresented, I think the Democrats are smarter than that. And guy that comments, if Qatar gave me oil money, I'd be for that too.
Okay.
We
can work out in a deal.
We just need George Soros to give us some money. He's given enough, to everyone on the left. We just need a little bit of money if he wants to, claim he's objective. I'm not asking for a lot. 30 million, we'll split it among the three of us for our channels, and then
I think that's reasonable.
I think so. I could do something off 10 million. I mean, I'm sure Drew, you and Jared could too as well.
A little bit.
Well, I don't really have anything else to cover. We did a good job going through all of our topics, and we're at about an hour and almost 50 minutes. Do you guys have anything that you want to throw out there as topics?
We talk about YouTube censorship.
We could. What about it?
Gruntproof's channel got taken down over the weekend here.
Yes, it did.
And as far as I know, it was put back up minus videos.
He lost all his videos.
All of them?
Yeah, but I haven't checked throughout the day. That was as of this morning. It was back up minus videos.
He put up a post saying that he submitted some sort of help request to try to get them back, but he wasn't going to upload 500 historical videos and just to have them taken down again until he can actually connect with them, and they've been ghosting him. That's the last I heard from him.
Did they give him a strike and he appealed it, and then they said sorry, our bad? Or
I think he had a
I think they gave him a door in the ass.
Yeah.
And no comment.
And I think it had a big old schlong attached to it too.
I mean, how many videos did he have in total? Like 1,000?
He wrote over 500.
Yeah, it was over 500.
That would be very difficult to go back and manually re-upload all of those.
He did start the Sear Challenge channel up again.
So DJ says, yeah, he lost everything on that main channel. That's unfortunate. I feel really, really bad for him. If he would like to, if he's been reinstated and all that, even if he hasn't been, I don't give a shit. If he'd like to come on and be a guest at some point, we'd love to have him, because I would like to hear more about this, because this happens to people, happens to a lot of content creators. They'll spend years building something up, and then, just like that, the rug gets pulled out from under you, and it's very unfair. I know that there is an appeal process and all that stuff, but my goodness, like, to just do that to somebody's pretty fucked up, because he's got what, a couple 100,000 or more subs.
I can't remember. I think it was right around 120,000. I don't remember exactly. Maybe a lot more. But he's the whole reason that I'm sitting here right now. It all
your dad?
started back. What's that?
Sorry, I was being glib.
Being a smart ass.
I didn't hear what you said.
Good.
Drew.
He said he's your dad. Yeah, I heard what you said.
Daddy Randall. But had it not been for his channel, I would have never gone out to the SEER challenge, 3-4 years ago. And I wouldn't have started doing YouTube stuff. And I wouldn't have met the guys that I did with my training group and guys like DJ and Steve Marshall on there. I would have never met. I haven't met.
I have
DJ.
a feeling that's what YouTube's counting on.
Yes, I can 100% agree. They don't want people like us collaborating, and that comes from.
Do you know how hard that makes me want to collaborate?
Collaborate me harder, Daddy.
Collaborate even harder on your channel now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I like talking to other content creators and doing this kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun. It mixes things up, keeps it interesting, and I absolutely fucking hate to hear when someone gets the rug pulled out from under them like that. It's bullshit because you guys know how hard it is to come up with content and put this shit up on here and all of the negative bullshit that you have to deal with from certain people and people who troll you, and you go through this slog to try and at least put out some decent content. And then YouTube's like, no, fuck you, you're out of here.
Shame.
Drew,
and meanwhile, they'll let fucking furries and everything else dominate their platform and spread that shit.
It's very one-sided.
Yes.
It is. It's very one-sided. Like one of my criticisms of YouTube is their policies about gun tubers. The way they treat gun tubers is like they're second-class citizens. It's total bullshit. And I don't like all gun tuber channels, but I think you have the right to say whatever you want. And I think you have a right to, exercise your Second Amendment. And they're trying to create like a chilling effect where, even if you show like some optics or something or anything, firearms related, they just, come down hard on you. And I think that is wrong.
Jay from the Modern Minuteman, he got one of his videos taken down, I think, because he showed because he showed a weapon-mounted flashlight. Yeah, they said it was a regulated firearm accessory or something bullshit like that.
Yeah,
good lord. All right.
Yeah, it's again, it's totally one-sided, and there's some YouTubers that seem to get away with murder and do whatever they want and talk about whatever they want. I guess as long as you're in favor with them, but once the eye of Sauron is upon you, then that's when the trouble starts. But Drew, did you have anything that you wanted to throw out as a topic? I thought you did.
We're butting up on 2 hours here, so I wanted to talk about the church attacks that seem to have been increasing in frequency here lately, but I think that's going to put us way over time. But
fair enough.
I will part by saying I really enjoy the conversation with you guys, with our viewers here. I really appreciated the comments. It really helped the conversation, and I really appreciate even when people disagree with me, even on things that we can't see eye to eye on. I really appreciate being able to speak with people about that. I don't see any other way out of this morass that we find ourselves in unless we can all talk to each other in good faith and express these opinions without getting shot in the neck. So I just am always going to welcome those conversations, those peaceful conversations, even if we part ways disagreeing, and I see no harm in that. And also to my kids, that the whole schlong on the door thing, I can't explain that, but if you get your mom's phone, just go ahead and Google it on her phone, and and
not yours.
I'm sure
just ask your mom.
Yeah. And just leave it up, whatever you find. Just leave it up there so that she knows what you're doing.
Right on the kitchen counter. She'll enjoy it. Jared, do you have anything you would like to close out with, sir?
Nope, I think I've said my piece about doors and schlongs and
we've done a lot of damage tonight, haven't we? We're gonna have to take this one down probably.
Oh no. If YouTube doesn't beat us to
it. We're probably not even live right now. It's probably been taken down. They
just fixed the glitch. They moved us to the basement with our radio at a reasonable volume. Oh my gosh, did I actually get a comment here at the very tail end in the home stretch?
No shit.
Somebody's texting here.
We were just about to close the restaurant and somebody fucking comes in with an order.
It's an SNR request. Disregard. Sorry to get everybody's hopes up.
Well, that's good.
Love you all. Love our viewers.
Yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up. Jared, Drew, as always, thank you. And also thanks to Phil for jumping on. You guys can catch him and Nick on the Matter of Facts podcast. They usually do their episodes on Thursdays, and it's always good to have them on to shoot the shit with us. Everyone in the chat, thank you guys. Appreciate you. And I guess we'll catch you all on the next one. And so I will close this out here. Thanks all.
Good night. Thank you.